Well, for more on the ambassador's visit, I want to talk to Remi Piet. He's a senior partner at Ambelli Advisory. Good to have you with us. Now, firstly, what do you expect to come from the ambassador's trip to Iowa? Anything we should look out for at all?
Well, it's a very interesting trip at this time, especially the location. I mean, the ambassador went a couple hours to Chicago, but then he spent most of his trips to already Iowa and the region of Muscatine that has a large history of collaboration. And the early trips from President Xi Jinping is already several decades ago. And you can see here a region that has clear potential complementarity with some of the needs in terms of the balance of trade from China. It's a region that produces very high levels of corn, eggs, also pork meat, one of the leading producers in the US, a series of products that are very important to Chinese food security over the next few months and years. However, if you actually look more closely politically at this part of Iowa, it's part of the region that supported more President Donald Trump against President Biden, especially on rhetoric that was very anti-Chinese. And therefore, the visit from the ambassador right now is also to reinvigorate and mention the interests of collaborating in a region that would have a lot to benefit from it.
And do you think these kinds of cultural exchanges actually help improve economic relationships?
I mean, it is part of the panel of different exchanges and relations that you have to build, an understanding of the other, understanding of specific needs from Chinese investors and potential markets for different growers. There's understanding of a series of sustainable practices that need to be implemented also in Iowa, and discussing building those ties and those business ties in a moment where post-pandemic you have to look at new markets and ensure that you also have sustainable supplies. This is part of the different relationship and needing visits so that you actually understand with whom you're working and have build long-lasting relationships.
I think it's fair to say that relations between China and the US haven't been the best. Trade relations have been fairly strained too. How would you say things are improving, and what do events like this mean for the relationship?
I mean, it is very important to be able to back, rhetorics of potential collaboration with some key cases, especially here in terms of trade. The good thing of international trade is that, both benefits from it, if you take it from the liberal perspective of being able to provide good quality, products to a market that needs them in terms of food security. And so by reinforcing those ties, you actually are able to show by key, studies or real benefits on specific relations that, there's a real benefit to working more, collaboration on the global stage. I mean, obviously right now we're seeing as a series of different questions, whether you're looking at the Ukrainian, Russian invasion of Ukraine, or you're looking at the issues of climate change. There are different talks at the diplomatic high levels, but they also need to be backed by key examples when collaboration can work effectively. And that relationship with the Iowa and the region of Muscatine specifically could show how a rural region in the US could actually benefit from better ties and closer relationship with China. And that is examples of how collaboration at the global level could be benefiting from China with the US, specifically at a time where there's a lot of different turmoil outside.
So if we look back slightly, the Phase 1 trade deal between China and the US was crafted under the Trump administration, as we know, and that, of course, was meant to benefit farmers first. How do you think farmers view President Biden's approach to US-China trade?
I mean, when you actually lose at the relationship between US and China, that's one of the themes where you see sometimes a level of continuity between the Trump administration and the Biden administration. However, now, especially on specific sectors and commodities, whether you're looking at mining commodities or you're looking here, especially at agro-industry, there are interests towards building new routes for exports, especially at a time when you have increased prices on different stock exchange for those commodities. You have an interest from China to secure their supplies. When you're looking at how this plays in terms of internal domestic politics from the Biden administration, there's a demand here to try to find new areas of collaboration between China and the US when the attention from the US is more focused retaliating or answering the invasion of Ukraine by President Putin, and being able to kind of armor and include China as part of different talks. And bilateral talks on agro-industrial goods could actually be quite interesting to reverse from the former trade policies from President Trump that was quite antagonistic towards China. So that might be an area where you could actually see a key case where collaboration could be good in terms of fostering new areas and avenues for trades far away from past sanctions towards more collaboration between China and the US that could then be able to build more trust and be able to deal with other issues on the global stage.
And what can we expect to come next? And more specifically, what can American farmers expect to happen next when it comes to trade between the US and China? Are we looking at the next phase of this trade deal that came from the Trump administration?
Well, when you're looking at actual, sanctions on potential exports of food, agro-industrial goods, I mean, the first one that are actually impacted are the producers themselves, and the consumers being able to try to be accessible to good quality food at interesting, prices and with reliance of import and export. So if you're actually a producer of corn right now, you're interested in to looking at, how you could actually secure a market in Asia, and also, obviously there's a key distinction and question from, local politics of making sure that you also, maintain the production for the domestic market of the U.S. But the Americans are actually net exporters of agro-industry and corn, and China could be a natural partner if there were to be a kind of a less, tension on the trade front, especially starting maybe with agro-industry at a moment of time, especially in terms of price of commodities today.